England wasn't always England. Long ago, people lived in small villages, farming the land. They used simple tools and built monuments from giant stones like Stonehenge. We don't know everything about these early people, but they were here long before the Romans came. In the year 43 AD, the Romans arrived. They were powerful soldiers and skilled builders. The Romans conquered the land and made it part of their vast empire. They called it Britannia. The Romans built straight roads, impressive baths, and strong walls. They brought their language, Latin, and their way of life to Britannia. After hundreds of years, the Roman Empire weakened. The Roman soldiers left Britain. People from northern Europe, called Anglo-Saxons, saw their chance. They sailed across the sea and made England their new home. The Anglo-Saxons were skilled warriors and farmers. They formed several kingdoms across the land. Life for the Anglo-Saxons was peaceful for a while. Then from the cold north came terrifying raiders. The Vikings, with their long ships and fierce warriors, attacked England's coasts. Villages were raided and treasures were stolen. The Vikings were a powerful force and they challenged the Anglo-Saxons for control of England. Section 5, 1066, a big year for England. This year marked a turning point in the history of the nation, setting the stage for profound changes that would shape the future of England for centuries to come. The year 1066 is very important in English history. It was a year of conquest, battles, and significant shifts in power. The events of this year are still studied and remembered for their lasting impact on the country's culture, governance, and social structure. A powerful duke from Normandy in France decided he should be King of England. This ambitious leader was not just any noble, he was a man of great vision and determination. His claim to the English throne was based on promises and alliances that he believed were rightfully his to enforce. His name was William, and he was a descendant of Vikings. Known as William the Bastard in his early years, he would later earn the title William the Conqueror. His Viking heritage gave him a fierce and unyielding spirit, which he carried into his quest for the English crown. William sailed across the English Channel with his army and fought the English king Harold at the Battle of Hastings. This was no small feat. The journey itself was perilous, and the battle that ensued was one of the most famous in English history. The clash between William's Norman forces and Harold's English army was intense and brutal. William won the battle and became King William the Conqueror. His victory at Hastings was not just a military triumph, but also a pivotal moment that led to the Norman conquest of England. This conquest brought about significant changes in the English language, culture, and governance, laying the foundation for the modern British state. William's reign marked the beginning of a new era in English history, one that would see the blending of Norman and Anglo-Saxon traditions and the emergence of a new, unified England. Section 6, the Tudors, powerful kings and queens. The Tudor dynasty is one of the most fascinating and influential periods in English history. It was a time of great change, both politically and culturally, and the Tudors left an indelible mark on the nation. Centuries passed and England saw many kings and queens. Each monarch brought their own unique style of leadership and left their own legacy. The Tudor period, however, stands out for its dramatic events and larger-than-life personalities. One of the most famous royal families was the Tudors. Their reign began in the late 15th century and lasted until the early 17th century. The Tudors were known for their strong personalities, political acumen, and the significant changes they brought to England. The first Tudor king, Henry VII, won a great battle and took the throne. This battle, known as the Battle of Bosworth Field, marked the end of the Wars of the Roses and the beginning of the Tudor dynasty. Henry VII's victory was not just a military success, but also a political masterstroke that unified the warring factions of England. His son, Henry VIII, is famous for having 6 wives. Henry VIII's marital history is one of the most talked about aspects of his reign. His quest for a male heir led him to marry 6 times, and his relationships with his wives were often tumultuous and controversial. Henry VIII also broke away from the Catholic Church and started the Church of England. This was a monumental shift in religious and political power. The creation of the Church of England allowed Henry to annul his marriage to Catherine of Aragon and marry Anne Boleyn. but it also led to significant religious upheaval and the reformation of the English Church. His daughters, Mary and Elizabeth, both ruled England as powerful queens. Mary I, also known as Bloody Mary, attempted to restore Catholicism in England, but her reign was short and tumultuous. Elizabeth I, on the other hand, is remembered as one of England's greatest monarchs. Her reign, known as the Elizabethan era, was a time of great cultural flourishing and saw the defeat of the Spanish Armada, solidifying England's position as a major European power. Section 7, Civil War, England divided. The English Civil War was a series of armed conflicts and political machinations between parliamentarians and royalists. In the 17th century, England faced a time of great turmoil. The country was divided not just by political lines, but by deep-seated social and religious differences. The tension had been brewing for years, with various factions vying for power and influence. The king, Charles I, believed in the divine right of kings. This meant he thought his authority to rule came directly from God, and therefore he was answerable only to God. This belief put him at odds with many of his subjects. He thought he should have absolute power. Charles often bypassed Parliament, imposing taxes and making decisions without their consent. This autocratic style of governance alienated many, including influential nobles and commoners alike. But Parliament, which represented the people, disagreed. They believed that the king should be subject to the law and that they had a right to have a say in how the country was governed. This fundamental disagreement over governance and power sharing was the spark that ignited the conflict. This disagreement led to a civil war, with the king's forces fighting against the parliamentarians. The war was brutal and bloody, with families and communities torn apart. Battles raged across the country from the north to the south, each side determined to emerge victorious. The parliamentarians, led by Oliver Cromwell, were victorious. Cromwell was a skilled military leader and a fervent Puritan. His new model army was disciplined and effective, and they managed to defeat the royalist forces in several key battles. King Charles I was executed, and England became a republic called the Commonwealth. This was a radical change, as the monarchy had been a central institution for centuries. The execution of the king sent shockwaves throughout Europe. And the new Commonwealth faced many challenges as it tried to establish a new form of government. Oliver Cromwell eventually became the Lord Protector, ruling the Commonwealth with a firm hand. His rule was marked by efforts to reform society according to Puritan values, but it was also a time of strict control and limited freedoms. The period of the Commonwealth was short-lived, and after Cromwell's death, the monarchy was eventually restored. The restoration of the monarchy in 1660, with King Charles II taking the throne, marked the end of the Commonwealth. The English Civil War and the subsequent Commonwealth period were pivotal moments in English history, shaping the future of the nation and its governance. Section 8. Factories and Machines, the Industrial Revolution. In the 18th century, a new era began, the Industrial Revolution. New machines were invented, powered by steam and coal. Factories were built and people moved from the countryside to the cities to find work. England became a centre of industry and manufacturing. The Industrial Revolution brought great changes to the way people lived and worked. Section 9, England today, a modern nation. Today, England is a modern nation with a rich history. It is part of the United Kingdom, along with Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland. England is a diverse and multicultural country with a global impact. From its ancient past to its modern achievements, England continues to be a land of fascinating stories and enduring legacies.